This is Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. We enthuse, we energize, we inspire, and we empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes in BW and beyond. Dumela, hello and welcome to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. Always a thrill to join you in this podcast and to share experiential knowledge from yet another entrepreneur, from yet another intrapreneur. And we try to enthuse and energize you as best we can. But for us to be able to do so, you need to just make sure you have pressed that subscribe button. Please, if you haven't hit it already, like I keep reminding you guys, we've just passed 15K. Our target is 100K, and we can only get there with your help. And please also be reminded that I have a book. Some of you will see it during this podcast, Nuggets of Grit. And it's about my journey from the cattle post through Kasi onto this entrepreneurship thing. And I think there are some lessons I picked along the way, which I'm more than willing to share with you. If you're interested in the book, it's only $399 in Pula. And you need to call my office, ask for my PA, my office number, 397-1368. 397-1368. Having said that having been said, let me move over to my guest. Welcome to the studio, madam.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me today.
We're going to talk about all things forensics, but before we get to the juicy stuff, just introduce yourself, share a little bit of your CV with the viewers.
All right. Once again, thank you. I feel so delighted to be here today. My name is Thato Tshupeng Sambere is my surname. Thato is a forensic investigation professional. Like he said, we're speaking all things forensic today. We're speaking more into investigations that will aid a lot of evidence before court, the success of many cases. Thato is a girl who grew up in the streets of Broadest, was a bit concerned more about the crime situations in Broadest, and I said to myself, what am I going to do to help my community? This is when I decided to embark on a journey to become a police officer there, becoming a detective, and then transitioning into forensics. This is why I'm here today, to speak a better language and to say we're here to stop crime, no to crime, and we are here to bring more evidential things that we are going to basically be able to bring before court and just be successful.
Okay. How did you get there in terms of academics and training?
All right. When I finished my tertiary, which is Form 5 in Botswana, a lot of us at that time had really passed, including myself. And this is when the government had stopped sponsoring students for abroad sponsorships. By then, there wasn't Limkomkwing, where we see that different. Now there are a lot of different institutions that take up from 5 students, right? And at that time, there was a lot of competition on how you're going to get into an institution. Believe me, one of my biggest dreams, aspirations then was to become I wanted to become a journalist and venture into investigation, which is investigative journalism. I used to watch a lot of CNN, and it kind of really inspired me. And then I applied to university.
Speaking of which, I think you look good on CNN.
I used to like those people who run behind those scenes with microphones, that. So then I applied into UB. I wanted to first start doing media studies. And then, unfortunately for me, I got a regret letter. But that didn't stop me. I said, what's my next move? And then I saw a post from Botswana Police College. They're looking for recruits. I'm like, but this could be good. By then, my parents didn't really like it. They're like, I'm going to speak in Setswana the way my mom spoke that time.
Yeah.
Opa said, where are you going?
Yeah.
I said, I have a vision. Maybe one day you will realize my vision, but I'm packing my bags and I'm going. So when I was interviewing for becoming a recruit constable at the time, One of my mom's best wishes was I could fail during the interviews and I'd sit down and they'd have another plan for me. But that didn't happen. And I transitioned through all those interviews, emerged victorious, even the physical ones where they test your physical ability to become a police officer at the time. I passed all of that and I got in after
you got trained in Otse?
Yes, I got trained in Otse. Those hills, they really know my name. Even though Mogobe Otse road,
yes,
they really know my feet. I used to run on that road quite a lot.
Yes.
And then fast forward to when I was now in the system. Then I was training, now I was in the system. So Botswana Police actually has a talent management program where they basically check what kind of people do they have. So as they were now trying to filter and see the other ones, they go to general duties, other ones go traffic. And I got interviewed. They actually spot me and then interviewed me for CID course, which now qualifies you to become a detective. And I went through that. And when I came back from training, that's when the challenges came. I was never ready. You're put on a spot and you're told, you've been to training. So one day you come in the office, you are given a murder docket to investigate.
Yes.
At the time, I think I was 22. And I was like, but I'm young, how about these old men? Why are they not? Why don't you give them? They're like, no, let's put you to the test. And I remember my first murder case. It was frightening. For an example, I hadn't seen a dead person before. I hadn't. And you know how we go to Dinsu and look at people? I didn't do that. So I had never seen a dead person before, but I had to go to a scene.
Why didn't you want to go before? There was never an opportunity, or you were afraid?
No. It was like a culture at home. We were not allowed to see a dead person. So, yes. So now getting into that, I get into a murder scene. I had to now remember all the teachings I got from training. How do you reconstruct a crime scene? What do you pick from a crime scene? A crime scene, I will tell you, it's like a puzzle. Those puzzles we used to play back then, if there's a missing piece, then you cannot complete your investigation. So even the most minute detail that you would overlook might just be the piece that closes up the investigation process and gets you to arresting somebody, compiling all the evidence, and then bringing the case before court. So I've had a couple of successful murder investigations, and without a doubt, there are people...
Someone got convicted and then...
Hundreds, without
a doubt. They got hung.
Yeah. No. That one, the person wasn't hung.
I agree, in Botswana we hang.
Yes, but it depends. Remember... it depends on the type of evidence that's there, everything. So
it could be manslaughter and things
yes,
like that.
all of that. So with the one that I had investigated at the time, the person wasn't hung, but they were sentenced to life imprisonment. So I would say without a doubt, sitting here today, I would say to you that there are people who are behind bars still serving because I did my job correctly.
You did a good job.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How long were you in the force?
16 years. I got to Botswana Police Service when I was 19 years. So I served a total of 16 years before I exited. Yes.
That's interesting. And in all this time, how did it shape you? How did your presence in the force shape the training plus those experiences? How did they shape your career path?
Oh, thank you so much. I would say to you today, as I'm sitting here, Botswana Police Service training, it instills a lot of discipline in you. You become humble. The training itself first, it humbles you. Even if you think you are from whatever background, the training itself, you will cry on those hills, but you remain humble. Secondly, the discipline itself. With hierarchy-wise, you know you're supposed to respect your elders who are now your superiors, right? Even your customer, you're supposed to now get to respect your customer, serve them well, customer service, all of that. So it's giving me that light to say, I'm not better than the next person who I'm supposed to help. So it gave me that, and also analytical skills, the ability to analyze things in a way that you'd be able to get something concrete that you can be able to compile in the form of an investigation report and take it before court.
Isn't there also a perception, I don't know whether it's wrong or right, that our police don't follow things through to the conclusion? There's a perception that, what's the use of reporting to the police? If it's a lost cell phone, for instance, if it's, I've heard it so much, if it's a cyberbullying, or if it's something to do with identity theft online.
Yes.
People just sort of give up. They say,
they're not going to get help.
I myself have 2 or 3 cases where somebody has been impersonating me. I've reported to the police. They've seen the person's number, but the case has sort of died
natural death.
More like an unnatural death for me. Yeah.
The perception is there. I will not shy away from the truth. The perception is there. It depends, honestly, on the type of investigator that you meet. Also, one of the things that I've realized just before I left, throughout my tenure as a police officer, I got to realize that they have a lot on their baskets. There's a lot going on. So you'd find, maybe for an example, at Central Police Station, you're going to find in a day they'll probably maybe record about 100 cases. And 100 cases, that's maybe particularly in a day, right? So now when they're compiled, they probably have about 30 detectives. So that will tell you that how many cases will each detective get out of the 100. And in a week, in a month, in a quarter, that is quite a lot. And for obvious reasons, there is no chance to specialize. If there are 6 murder cases, people are going to get. If there's a fraud case, people are going to get. You just dish out, allocate cases as they come in, because you cannot say the person who's specializing in fraud cases is not there. Everybody learns general investigations. The ones that really require some type of high expertise, they are now shipped off to another branch that specializes only in fraud, depending maybe on the modus operandi and maybe the value of the stolen items. So for an example, maybe if somebody stole 20,000, that one is subject to investigation within the police station. The ones we speak millions, there are people that generally specialize in that, and they look into those.
Okay. Now, you are specifically into cyber investigations, and you've done that in the FBI setting. Take us through that and tell us how that shaped the woman that you are, the detective that you are.
Yes, thank you so much. I was sent particularly by the Botswana police. I still thank them to this day for creating such a foundation for me to train with the FBI. These are there's a world-class academy, right? And what
located where?
Sorry?
Located where?
In the USA.
I mean, where in the US?
In New York.
Okay.
So what basically happens is they sharpen and hone your investigation skills. Now, what we do down here, we basically just do general investigation. They'll tell you that investigation does not go anywhere without intelligence. So they run parallel. So you have to go put in a mole somewhere, just for an example. Put in a mole somewhere. I'm going to maybe quote a case later on, just before we close, where there was a mole that brought us information. So in the FBI, it's a world standard investigation, right? And what they basically do is they teach you so many things technology-wise. Right now in our country, we don't have much to work with, but because they're first-class world, they are more advanced than us.
They
The
call
type of
themselves the first
equipment
world,
that
yeah.
they use, evidence recovery techniques that they use, equipment that they use. For an example, if we're going to speak cyber and somebody, we were speaking identity theft at some point during this.
I mentioned.
Yes, you did mention identity theft. So let me look into that quite a little bit. So we're speaking of identity theft. There's somebody who is calling himself Mr. Mogobe somewhere. He's probably got your cards loaded on a computer somewhere.
It's like there's several of them for me.
So what they basically taught me was, you need to know how to locate an IP address. It's every internet meter. I don't know if I'm using a word here. Every internet meter is connected to a certain IP address, and somebody is paying that internet meter. So whoever the provider is supposed to provide you with that information. So we look into the IP address. It will give you a certain geographical location. Then we'll go for that person. What basically happens is, when you get to the scene, you've obtained a search warrant at the time. You're trying to prevent having to deal with a lot of issues that you had an oversight with. So you'd get your search warrants on time, prepare for everything. You just don't go like what we basically see around here, where you understand? So then they prepare themselves. There's a system that they work with. So they'll go prepare themselves, get a search warrant, and on the search warrant, they will write down the number of the type of gadgets that they're looking for in that house that they're going to confiscate. One of the things that they taught me was, you find a laptop open like this, somebody is working on it. This is one of the most easiest points to get information. You just come in, find a power source, transit with it to the offices, don't switch it off. Right? So if you're working on something right now and we close your laptop, we might not retrieve some type of data. But we find it on like that, you just seize it, plug it to a power source. It's a you don't ask for any passwords, you are downloading on the way. They actually have all of that, those things that will like store your information, all of that.
I mean, in a situation where maybe you've pounced on the culprit and they run off.
So there you just constantly have, you're actually putting information from that to your own source. By the time you get there, you already have so much information. You already have access to emails. You have access to a lot of things. This is where you will get more information on how this person has been operating, how many cards are loaded inside this computer.
So how long was your training with the FBI now? And how challenging was it?
It was a month.
Only a month?
It was only a month. I wish it was years, because I think I would have come out a more honed and better person at the time. It was a month, and then they put me to a test. They said to me, we'd like to see if you are able to get information from a person, because then it will tell us we taught you something. So then there was somebody in the academy, like a cleaner. So this person was like cutting down trees, trimming down some flowers. That lady, go and find out how many kids she has, what time she gets to work, who does she leave home, is she married, where does she come from in this country?
And where does she live?
Yes. So I looked at her, I'm like, but she looks unapproachable. You're going to make her look approachable, and you're going to get information. So you got 30 minutes. So I went. I took first thing, I took a drink. I passed the lady, I just greeted her, I passed her, came back. It was kind of a sunny day. Then I came, like, oh, these shoes are killing me. You've been working in the sun the whole day. Please do have a drink. And then that's when I softened her up. And softening her up, I was like, please come and have a seat. I'm so tired. I think you're also tired. Then that's when now we started speaking more calmly. When she had a seat, she was more calmer. And then it's like, what is your name? And then I started telling her where I come from, all of that. Oh, I've never heard of that. And then basically as we went on in the conversation, just like when you get into a queue in the hospital, you start chit-chatting with somebody. That's how I just made
And
my
she-
way through
and
her
she-
life, and I got
Yeah.
all of that.
And then, of course, you shared some about yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I had a recorder then. They wanted to find out
Mm-hmm.
how, because I was not gonna lie,
Mm.
right? But they wanted to really know how this conversation unfolded. And we gelled together, and I got a lot of information, more than what I was set out to get. And they said, this is good.
You've done your job.
Absolutely.
Well, they say about Botswana that there was a big debate about torture when DIS first came.
Yes.
And the director of DIS at the time said, no, with Botswana, you don't need to torture them. Botswana are willing to share information. Why are you talking about torture? It's easy to get information from Botswana.
Absolutely.
I remember reading that in the newspaper.
Yes.
How far true is that?
It's a good thing that you asked me that question, because I have experienced. Let me just give you two cases that I've done. In investigations, investigative interviews, we have something that we call the peace model. You just plan, engage, all of that, right? And then get to a stage where now you are confronting the suspect. You're trying to get more information from the person. So there's something we call good guy, bad guy approach.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. So maybe me being a pretty face, I'm the one that's the interview. And then this person is not giving me much information to work with. They're literally just wasting my time. They're not talking. And I start threatening them with my colleague. You know, I have this colleague, if he comes here, there's torture, there's everything. And I don't want you to go through this. Just make life simple. Where is the money? Where are the stolen properties? But if I go call that guy, then there was this tall guy, kind of, you know, but not ugly type
Yeah,
of,
yeah.
but when you
Yeah,
see him.
yeah.
He was a Kalanga guy.
Yeah.
So the one time, this guy is refusing to give out information. I'm like, let me go call that guy. The moment I opened the door to welcome my colleague in, that guy was like, no, my sister, just tell him to go back. These items are at plot so and so, go peering.
Yeah.
And we like, without wasting any time, let's get in, let's go get the items. And this is how easy it is to get information from a person. The other way
From
to get
Botswana or person
from
general.
Botswana.
Yeah.
And they're quite easy actually. And then the other way to get information is to basically put, let's say people are acting together.
This is an example.
Yes, it's another example. So there are two suspects. You put one in another room, you put one in another room. They don't go into one room. So first I go to another room, the first room. I interview, hey, Ohanaga information, there's nothing coming out of you. I'm like, but I'm using the peace model. I don't want to lay hands on anybody. I just need the proper information to work with. This guy doesn't give me information. It's a done deal. I'm leaving him. I go to the second one. At that time, I'm just busy praying. This one shouldn't pull the same stunt as the first one. I get and I tell him, hey, my brother, your friend has given me all the information. Please, I even have the address. Please, just don't waste any time. Let's go through everything. Just tell me exactly what your friend said. I just want to see if it tallies. And I don't want us to waste a lot of time. He's actually outside in the car, ready to take us to where we're supposed to go. At the time, that one didn't tell the truth.
Yeah.
This one, because I twisted him a bit, he took out the information, and by the time they meet in the car, we're going to collect the stolen properties. After that, they're fighting. I've got the property.
Yeah.
The case is going to court.
Yeah.
That's a victory for me.
Victory for law enforcement.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now you are at the Kavango Diamond Company.
Yes.
Tell me about that company, and then as well tell us why you moved to it.
All right. I'm currently at Okavango Diamond Company. It's a company that is wholly owned by the government of Botswana. Me transitioning from Botswana Police Service, I like referring to it as BPS.
Botswana Police Service.
Yes, BPS. So me transitioning to there, I felt like, you know, when you feel like you've reached a ceiling, you've investigated everything across the investigation fraternity.
Over 16 years.
Yeah, so over 16 years, it becomes monotonous, really. You find it quite boring. You feel like there are no challenges anymore. From one dead body to the next, and then you feel like, what's next? The only thing that changes across the years is the modus operandi. Somebody's cooking up modus operandi here and there. It just becomes all new, but it's the same cases all over again. It's a fraud case, it's a murder case, it's a cyberbullying case type of thing. So I thought, I think I'm exhausted in my mind. I'm not growing. I'd like to maybe venture into corporate investigation and see what that does for me. And when I was interviewing for a job at ODC, one of the mandates that I saw was, I'm going to be protecting and investigating high value goods, which are Botswana's diamonds. I was like, wow, why don't I just try this one? So when I was interviewing for this job, I would call it raha, you know, the last kicks of a dying horse. In my last interview, I was like, if these guys didn't hear me, I'm going to give this my all.
In other words, throwing everything there, yeah.
Absolutely. I just threw almost everything that I've done. A huge 16 years for me was a lot. And looking at me, a young me, people started thinking, 16 years. And her age, no, we must call this person in. And when they called me in, I knew right then I was going to impress them and I was going to get this job. So getting into ODC is a rough diamond marketing company. They only sell rough diamonds through sale lots. They don't cut, they don't polish. So you have the diamond in its rough form. So this is what I am for at ODC.
Okay.
Yes.
What's the mandate of the company? I mean, what's the mandate of the? Is it to develop markets for the country, side by side with Debswana, or they complement each other?
Okay. This ODC Debswana, they're in the same value chain, right? Debswana mines.
Yes.
We get the end product, which is the rough diamonds. And then we have our own customer database where we now sell off the end products from the mine.
Okay.
Yes. So we only sell rough diamonds. We don't do anything to it.
I often see people coming from Israel or from all over the world
to come and view.
Coming here to how does that work? What are they?
All right. So they come in from different countries to come and view the diamonds. So what we basically do, we auction off the diamonds. So you cannot buy something that you've not seen with your naked eye. And diamonds, we speak both the 4Cs, the carats, the cards. You need to come and see for yourself what the designated equipments, where you now look into the stone and see the value, see its impurities and all of that. Because if you're sitting somewhere, you might just buy something with impurities and you've not really seen it. More like a car, when it's sold on sale, there's a previewing process before you can now auction it off. So that is what we do with all of our goods. We have goods that come up for sale. Then you you basically come and view what interests you, what's your target market, what would you like to buy at the time. So you come and view. And then after the viewing process, what basically happens is now we open up an online auction where you now start bidding for a particular lot that you are interested in during the viewing process. We even have like a list of goods where you maybe just take, I'm interested in lot 1, I'm interested in what, so that when the online bidding comes up, you bid according to what you are interested in at the time.
Okay. And what's the role of a forensic investigator in all of this?
All right. So basically what happens is forensics is everywhere. You'd be surprised. Let me maybe for an example say, yes, we do investigations, right? And investigations, they're not solely for the diamonds only. It is for the general thingy of the company. Let's say, for an example, we're speaking lifestyle audits. Somebody's living a flashy life. You start wanting to look into that, look into their net worth, calculate. We're speaking into forensic accounting now. Look into their net worth. Are they living beyond their means of living? Should we see maybe there's a loss? Should we see the recurring losses? Who do we look into? Do we look into that person? Let us see. You know, all of that. It's all in a maze, but you've got to put everything together. You don't leave anything out. You don't leave anyone out. Everyone within our premises is a subject of investigation, one way or the other.
And everybody who goes there accepts that they're under scrutiny.
100%.
And they probably sign appropriate documents.
Absolutely. So you just know you're a subject of investigation.
So
as
how
soon as
comfortable are your colleagues when they know that you are the one who is scrutinizing them? Are they ever comfortable around you?
One thing I can say is, just as much as criminals were not comfortable seeing a detective walking and looking for them at their homesteads, because this is quite a small space. You don't rub people the wrong way. When it's work, it's work. I may come and laugh with someone. I may have a cup of coffee. That's it. But the mandate needs to be lived. Even in the BPS, I may run into a habitual criminal. I can't hate him. Oh, hey, so and so, I like that, all of that. You know, this is, life goes on at the end. And I might not be at ODC tomorrow. I might be somewhere else. And I'm not apologetic about my mandate. When I'm told, go and do this, I'm going to do everything and I leave no stone unturned.
How long have you been at ODC, and what was the, if you like, the biggest discovery or surprise when you got there?
I've been there for 2 years. I'd say the biggest surprise was that it's a small company. I think the staff complement is about 48, if not 50. So it's quite a homely type of thing. And then one of the things that surprised me about the company was that the people are so welcoming. You get in, even you can come and visit us. Even you get in, you just get that warm feeling. It's inviting. When you get in there, if you are coming in for something else, you'd be interested in finding out how you can trade in diamonds just by stepping in. The ambience itself, it calls you in. So
I often ask my guests to share some of their challenges and setbacks. Do you have a few of those that you've had in your career? Any significant challenges? Yes.
Limitations as far as technology is concerned. When you have the right equipment, and you're technology advanced, you can work better. But when you have nothing, that will tell you cannot do much, right? And then secondly, I always speak much about management support. When you have the right support, it surpasses every other thing that might come your way. And then speaking into ethics, it's a conversation where you have to do this. This is what is right. And as you investigate people, you make sure that you don't overstep certain things. Let's say, for an example, human rights. It is something that is there at the top of your head all the time. Sometimes one of the limitations is when you're interviewing somebody and they're not giving you information. Back then when I was coming from, you could do something, but I won't tell you.
Well, we know you could say a few things.
So now, you have to be very, very clever. Now, this is when now you employ modes of intelligence to fetch you information. You lean back, and everything comes to you.
Okay. Are you able to share a particularly interesting case there or from your history that the viewers might like?
Yes. Let me share one or two. Let's see how we roll out. This was more into forensics than fingerprints type of thing back in Botswana Police Service. There was a case that I was investigating, and Botswana, I think they take this very lightly, where they see police officers coming to dust their windows. They're like, they usually do this, they will never come out with anything. And one of the cases that I was investigating, we actually had a feedback that came, results from the lab, from the Botswana Science Laboratory, where they were able to match the fingerprint that they took on the window to the one that's on the database.
Wow.
So remember now, when you are applying for your Omang, they're looking for your fingerprints, transport fingerprints, right? Wherever you're looking for a job, security clearance fingerprints, all of those, they go into the database. So by the time they come now, uplifting this evidential value from the windows, this is when maybe by luck, the person who went and broke into your house has been to a certain place where they had to finish the fingerprints.
One of these offices.
Yes, one of these offices that I've just mentioned. So by luck, an identification came, and at the time the person was in prison, was now serving in prison. I think at the time he was serving 8 years for a similar case of burglary. So
he was just out on bail, or what?
No, at the time he was out on bail. At the time when the fingerprints results came in,
he was now serving
for another crime. So now I had to go to prison and warn and caution him for the offense and let him know that we are compiling all the evidence. We'll bring in a summons to bring him before a court of law. So now, then before that, I got to go to the scene with him and tell him, when I'm saying I'm investigating you for this, there's this house in Partial Broadhurst that was broken into. Items of the value of this were stolen from this house. So your right little finger was uplifted from that window. Let me go and show you, so that by the time we go to court, we are all versed with the truth. So we went. That girl's like, sister, I've never been to this house. Like, oh, okay, no problem. See you in court. Summons, time, court. When he decided, how people go to jail, they come out of there more smarter than they were before, because there are other people, masterminds in there. So they told him. So I think they told him, go and tell them you've never been to that house, or if you have been now, tell them that you are dating the helper of that house. That's how your fingerprint was on that window. So he gives his own evidence, after that, I take a stand, right? Final investigation. How did we arrive to where we are? Now, countering his statement, the owner of the yard has never had a helper her whole life. So which helper did he visit there? No one. So with the amount of evidence that was there, he was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment.
Oh, that's very interesting. But have you had a situation where the lawyers were a bit aggressive during cross-examination, and how did you handle that?
Lawyers can be defense counsels can be very, very intimidating. The first thing that they'd ask you, how many years have you been serving the Botswana Police Service? 6 years. 6 years, quite a little amount of time. Then they continue with the next question. They're trying to intimidate you. And then if you don't have a stand, you're going to lose all the points that you would like to relay before the court. So for me...
so how do you boost your confidence to make sure you don't fall apart in court?
Yeah, one thing, when the question comes, I think we're all addressing the chair. Who is your worship or your lordship at the time?
Yes.
So whenever a question is thrown at me and I feel like it's intimidating in a way, I just stand my ground. In fact, I just smile. My smile will kill you. If I answer and I feel like you're not getting my points, I will now expand my points quite well, and I stand up straight like that, demeanor in court. I don't
slump
or what. No. The demeanor in court, it will kill you.
You have to show confidence.
Absolutely, because I'm supposed to be confident about what I did. I've sweat days on ends to be able to compile all this evidence, and it cannot crumble because I wasn't able to stand for my work.
But there's some really good defense counsels.
Yes, I have met them.
Haven't you had an encounter with one of them who tore you to pieces?
I have met the likes of Uno Damek. He knows me. We've never really been to a point where I'm torn into pieces.
You stood your ground.
I've met the likes of Dumaboko. Yeah. I think the two of them, I would say. And I forgot another name, but it's quite popular. Yeah, so for me, I know how to stand my ground.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I've worked in an environment where there are lots of men than women. And for me, one of the things that have always followed me around was the fact that maybe when you are a pretty face, they feel like you didn't come to work. You are just there, you know. And for me, I've always had to prove the contrary. I've had to sweat. I've had to work my way to the top, no matter how scary it was. Even if I was called to a suicide scene, I'm going to go up that tree and get that person down. I was never scared of anything. And one of the most, I'd say, difficult things that I've had to handle when I was with the BPS, like I was telling you, I've never really seen more dead bodies. That day I saw over 100.
Where? Which day?
There was an inquiry into a missing dead body, and then at the time, this guy actually think he didn't like me, but may his soul rest in peace. I didn't think my boss liked me at the time. So when they got at the inquiry, it was, they had like there was an inquiry that was looking into a missing dead body, right? Somebody had given birth.
Commission of Inquiry.
Yes, so somebody had given birth at Princess Marina Hospital. And it was a stillbirth. These were twins. So the other one survived, the other one was a stillbirth. So they were looking for the dead body. They couldn't find it. So they went and reported at the police, hey guys, help us. And then my boss at the time, that guy, I don't think he liked me. Then he threw me.
But he has passed on.
Yeah, he has. He threw me the docket of inquiry and said, roll with it. Then I was looking at it, I was wondering, where do I start? It meant I had to go to the mortuary. And at the time of arriving there, I don't know if you remember an incident where I think about 2 guys were shot, some CA sales robbery.
I seem to recall,
Yeah, so those 2 guys were there in the mortuary. There are these bar fridges, and then there's this other, I don't know what they call it, more like this open space, but they also keep dead bodies and trolleys inside. So then when I first got there, they were like, there are 2 people here, so you need to lift one of them to check if maybe we didn't put the small baby underneath, you know. And these people, and I had to lift one, lift 2. Fortunate enough for me, my colleague came in and said, this is too much for one person. Let me help you. So we looked for the dead body. It's a gruesome scene, eh? Yes, over 100 dead bodies at the time. And unfortunately, we didn't find that dead body. Then the investigation, we closed it to they had actually put the child in, there's red refuse bags and things. These were now going for incineration. So they didn't clock the child well into the mortuary trays. They put the baby in the thingy, and then by accident they put that, and then through incineration where you have your hands, those cut hands from theater, all of that. So those plastics go into one bin, and then they have like a service that comes and takes this to an incineration, I don't know where. So now when we are tracing, we found out that by accident they put that. So, after that terrible day, where you always feel like family will always be there, or your only point of contact at your worst. I got into the police station. I never cried whenever I've been to scenes. But that time, I sat in the office, dialed my mom, please come and pick me. And it's like, but you are driving. Like, I need you to pick me. As soon as I got in, I remember I sat there at the back. She came with my sister because they were panicking. I sat at the back of the car and I cried. Until we got to home, which was in G West. She was like, that's when I told the truth. The whole way I was just crying. They're wondering, what happened to this person? And I'd like to believe I'm a strong person, but you cannot see more than 100 bodies and become the same.
No, you can't. Again. Yeah. That's a hell of an experience. I have to take a deep breath just listening to that. Ooh.
Yes.
Let's pivot to something else, which is working in a male-dominated setting, both at BPS and also at Okavango.
Yes.
How do you cope in a male-dominated environment, and how deal with issues of gender dynamics?
Yes. I always have a strategy. I've learned that you cannot survive if you don't have a strategy. I gel with the males than the females. So that strategy has always worked for me. And men can be quite intimidating in nature. And we always know there's a popular belief that says a man is the head, the woman is the tail. So for me, since they're the heads, I'm always following them. I want to see what these heads have. So I network with them quite a lot. So it's not easy for them to maybe intimidate me in such a setting. But even if I don't network with them as such, my confidence, my experience speaks for itself. I find I get into an environment, there's a shaky ground, I just make sure I maintain my steps and get it going. And one of the things that I always have at the back of my mind, I came here to make money. I came here for the experience. It's more about me than the next person. Yeah. So getting to a part where you wake up and you feel like, I don't want to go to work, I'm bored by this. I don't want to be that person. I want to create a positive space within me. And so that whenever, sometimes you leave, there's somebody who's literally following you, looking at your steps, but you don't realize it. But the moment you slack a little bit,
that
you're
person
killing
is lost.
them.
They get lost.
Yes, they get lost. So for me, I'm always saying, whoever who's looking at me and I don't know, I don't think they would like it if I ever looked at myself differently or in a negative way. So that's always been a key driver in my life.
Okay. Now, in the work setting that you are in the work environment that you are in, also based on what you just said about knowing that others are following you, I see you as an intrapreneur as opposed to an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is out there running their own businesses. Intrapreneur is someone within a company but applying entrepreneurial skills and approaches. What did you say is your approach to make sure that you leave your mark as an entrepreneur,
Yes.
Do you ever think about that? If so, what do you do?
Basically, that's a good question. Generally, leaving a mark should be something that should be beneficial for the people that you're going to leave in a certain place. Let me give an example with the BPS. I was never a person that would shy away from cases. Next the case, no matter how challenging they were ever were. If ever I didn't know anything, I'd go to the next person and ask for help. That kind of cultivated my path throughout. And even when I was leaving, I remember I was called for a meeting. Why are you leaving? Is there anything we can do? And I said, you've done almost everything. It's enough. I'd like to fly somewhere else. And now, where I am currently,
and you did this before you even got a job.
Yes. I was, I'm somebody who's always eager to learn. And in our offices, you'd hear, let's say for an example, the personal assistant to the commissioner is not present, and I'm there. You'll find me answering those phone calls. You'll find me dealing with this diary, but that's not my day-to-day work. So for me, I learned a lot. The BPS would take you to school for certain things, but the other ones were on-the-job training. So I was never a person that would sit and say, okay, there's nobody there. I was always eager to help. So that really developed my mind a lot. And I knew quite a lot by the time I was leaving. So even now at ODC, you wouldn't find me particularly doing things that are relevant to my office now. You'd find me at communications department, I'm doing something. You'll find me somewhere else, I'm doing something. I'm trying to learn, you know. And for me, as I help out, I leave a mark everywhere I go. She wasn't that person that says, now this is my mandate and I'm going to leave it and I'm not doing any other job. I get to experience certain things because I want to live in the moment. I want to see what other people do. I want to see, now if we speak into diamonds, I want to see what they speak into when they say the 4 C's. I want to see what they say when they say something is a near gem. What does it look like? I will not say I don't deal with it all the time. I don't have sorting skills. I will go and watch those people work because it's within me. Why won't I learn? We're going downstairs to Ayoba down here. I want to see what is the daily challenges of that girl who's standing at the door there. Maybe I'll spend a moment with him and just watch at one point. I wouldn't come and necessarily
because you have a curious nature.
Yes, I wouldn't just generally come in and sit here and just have a drink. Oh, you know, I look better and just go. No. I'm going to collect all the information. That is what I'm for. So I'm of a curious nature.
Yeah. On that point, how do you then keep up with the latest trends and developments in the area of forensics?
Right. I network with my fellow colleagues in the forensics, going to conferences. I'm always looking up for something.
What kind of conferences?
I'm actually a member of the International Investigations Quorum. Now, we basically have conferences. Sometimes they're in the USA. This year they're actually in South Africa, where we are going to all meet fellow forensic investigators, where we're going to meet, exchange our challenges, technology-wise, what can we do to help? If you are in Botswana but you don't have the latest technologies, what is it that somebody in the USA can help you with? We are just not sitting. We want to basically counter every other move as it comes in. But for what it's worth, as we're sitting here, somebody's cooking up a nice modus operandi to take your money out of your account as we speak.
Even as we're talking.
Yeah, and if we don't move swiftly, we don't have connections, we don't network, we're as good as nothing.
Yeah.
You can't bank on us. So we do have that.
So in this day of cyberbullying and AI and all these new technologies,
yes,
what are the biggest threats?
One of the biggest threats is, as much as technology is advancing, okay, it's one of the things that we feel like it brings in many challenges, right? As you are sitting there, somebody can just basically clone your card just by getting information from what you've been. Remember how the computer always says, remember my password, right? That remember my password is very, very dangerous. It's easier for somebody to now have all of those. Remember, it asks you for those digits in the front, and then the CVV. Once somebody has all of that, they can just clone in a card.
You must always say, don't remember.
Yes, do not remember. I'm telling you, even the open Wi-Fi's are a serious problem, because now you give in.
You mean in restaurants?
Yes. Open Wi-Fi's are actually a problem. You must go and research about this. This is homework for you. Open Wi-Fi's. What information?
But is it not enough just to do your transaction quickly and then log out?
You will never know who's there at the time, who has logged in, who has what. They probably have some device that they're collecting information with. It's better safe. You are better safe than sorry at the end of the day. And we all work for.
So what are the do's and don'ts?
I'd say, number one, be very, very careful which platforms you use your card in. And even the ATMs. I'm just glad that the banks now have that chip that's attached to the card. Before, those things were not there. This is how people cloned the cards. They stole the info. They'll just put a device there. You wouldn't even see it. You put in the card, it collects all the information. This is why you could see there were so many cases of my card has swiped in Canada and I'm in bots. You know, there were a lot of those. But now the banks have become very
Smarter.
fast and smart. So one of the do's and don'ts is also don't give people your card.
People as in your children.
Yes, yes. You need to account for your money.
I'm feeling tired. Because take my card.
Yes, because if you
do that, some parents do that.
Yeah, if you do that, the bank holds you liable for all that money that left your account because you gave it to a third party. So they cannot protect you now because you've taken it away from you. It is not you who's personally banking with the bank, but you've given it to somebody else.
Okay.
So it's one of those things, really. And just generally not sharing your cards with people. If your wife says to you, my darling, I'm trying to purchase 1, 2, 3 things, better be there. Better be there. You are there. You are witnessing this whole transaction going on.
You're making sure that they don't save passwords and things like that.
The banks, they'll interview you. They'll ask you, how did this happen? You need to account also how that happened. Otherwise,
so issues of trust between spouses and family members should be avoided.
I'd say trust yourself. I would say trust yourself because.
And I have a saying, trust but verify. If you're going to trust, just verify as well.
Absolutely. You know, when you say you trust yourself, you can disappoint yourself, right? How about the next person? So you look more into that and you say, trust but not really.
Yeah.
Tread very carefully.
And then there was a time when Botswana was grey listed because of these issues, and then somehow we escaped and we avoided being grey listed, and then there are issues of human trafficking. How's the situation there? Is it getting worse or it's getting better?
It's a good question that you ask me that. I was one of the first police officers to be taken through a human trafficking pilot course. This was the first course. This is why they called it a pilot course. This is after the Human Trafficking Act was enacted. There were so many sad stories, I'll tell you. And it's just that the information is not out there. One of the few cases that I had to deal with at that time, I think about 30 of us, the first 30 police officers to go through that course. And afterwards, that's when we're dealing with those cases. One of the sad cases was you'd come across about a 3-month-old baby. There's human trafficking, but in the act it's called trafficking in persons, TIP. And then there's people smuggling in there. You'd come across a 3-month-old baby being breastfed by somebody else who's not their mother. They're being trafficked from one country to the other. Botswana is not a hub for that. It's a transition phase. So they are transiting through maybe Namibia, Botswana to South Africa. That's where a lot of that is happening. And then when they get to South Africa, what do? They ship them out of overseas.
With the same strange mothers.
Exactly. Then South Africa has that international airport. OR Tambo, this is where you have so many flight routes. So they transition by road, and then they created fake passports with the images, and then you will be looking for a child. The child is gone, is staying in the United States of America while you are in Zimbabwe looking for your child, crying every day. I've come across those cases, and we've intercepted.
And it all starts with you leaving the child in the car to do some groceries,
or leaving them in the village with their grandmothers while they're busy tilting the land. Somebody comes in and steals the kid, or they're left with a 7-year-old. Maybe the elders have gone to a town to buy some goodies or whatever. Somebody comes, or they're playing outside, grab into the car. We've actually even intercepted also, when we speak into people smuggling, we've intercepted a huge truck full of so many people. And
here in Botswana?
Yes, they were now going to cross through an ungazetted point of entry. And those people were sweaty, tired, they hadn't eaten for days. There were children in there. There were lots of women and men in there.
And you got a tip-off, or it was just
yes,
a
there was a tip-off.
Mm.
And obviously when you go through ungazetted points of entry, we've put some people there for intelligence purposes. They will intercept them. And they definitely did. And it was a very sore sight. They were hungry. They had gone about 5 days without eating, locked up in that
Were they just
truck.
grabbed in some village, or they had been, what?
Actually,
They've been told that they have jobs.
some of them that were told that they had jobs. Some of them, they were just kidnapped. And they were going to be taken to South Africa, and then I don't know where. Also, you know how South Africa has those farms with huge farms, oranges, whatever. They were going there for cheap labor.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
so that's that. And then one of those trafficking in persons cases, you'd find somebody would be told, they meet on the internet, and they're told, you are getting married to so and so, and you come blindly. Kanti, this person is going to sell you off. And for you to convince that person that that person was never going to marry you is another story.
Because they've fallen in love.
Yes,
I've come
just
across
over
those.
the internet. I don't even know how. You know, the internet is problematic.
There's a friend of mine, actually somebody you wouldn't even think, who fell in love with a guy called John
on the internet.
and the internet, and he booked
A flight.
he booked actually a hall for the wedding and everything, and then this John kept having problems and needing money.
And they had never met.
I'm stuck. Hey, they never met, or they had met who they thought it was. It wasn't.
Oh yes, video calls.
Yeah,
yes.
and then they would keep sending money. Oh, today John has this problem, for him to come for the wedding.
Yes.
Send money. Oh, today John has that problem.
Yes.
And they couldn't believe when we told him. In fact, it got to a point where they said to my wife, "Don't tell Mr. Mogobe, you know he's going to laugh at us. But we want to carry on. We want to borrow money from you to give
and
to
then
John."
give to John,
It's
so
crazy.
that he now comes.
Then he comes for the wedding. Now
Yeah.
he kept postponing the wedding.
Sometimes they'll tell you they sent you a parcel. They sent you maybe an iPhone, but they wanted to spoil you more. They put in some money in there. Unfortunately, the money was intercepted and the gift, so you have to send more money to release the gift so that it comes to you.
Yeah.
And then it's one story after the other. After you send the money, no, all those social media, whatever that you're communicating, accounts shut down. That's the end of it. You start crying. You know, you've even borrowed money from Mr. Mogobe, and Mr. Mogobe wants his money. You know, so there's one problem after the other.
There used to be a perception that a lot of these are Nigerian-based. Is that a fair perception or belief, or it's now international? It's gone all over.
That
That some of these syndicates are based in Nigeria or something.
Yes, there's a Nigerian letter 411.
Yes.
Yes.
It's an old one, yeah.
Yes, that one. That
Before
one
the
was too
internet.
tricky. Those ones.
Yeah, it's always about.
There was a lot of those, and for what it's worth, Nigeria has a huge population, and at that time, I think they were taking advantage of what's available on the internet, the platforms, and the sobi stories that they were selling to people. Somebody would tell you, my dad was a king, he left me loads of money, all of that, please help me out, just get me this money, I want to come out, I'll come and share the shares with you, something. And
Don't
being
tell
an
anyone.
ordinary Muzwana, like, oh my God, no. You send mine, Western Union. After that, you'll never get your share.
Never.
So those were real stories there.
All right. Now I want to talk about Zaga. I never want to forget this one, because this is an entrepreneurship show. People want to know if there's money to be made in forensics, whether somebody can become rich from this. What's your experience?
All right. For what it's worth, I'm going to. In fact, one of my aspirations is to one day have my own forensic firm. I've done the work with the BPS. I know the strengths and weaknesses that are there in the organization, right? And I know, like we were talking earlier on about the perceptions that when you report something, what's going to happen to your case. I know the challenges that they have, and I would like to use them to counter whatever it is that is in place. And there is a lot of money. Let me quickly open your eyes to something quite a little bit. Our network service providers, I'm going to talk digital forensics. Our network service providers, say somebody's threatening you over your over a text message on your phone. You ask your network provider, I'm going to say we at the time, the BPS will ask through a certain court order for a network provider to furnish them with information that will assist us to bring something of evidential value before the courts. Do you know what will happen? They will never release that message because there's a confidentiality clause that they live by. You've asked Mascom or whoever not to divulge any information, right? And they will live by it. If they start releasing information, there will be a
even
problem.
with a court order.
They can only. I will tell you from that time when I was investigating that the only things I ever got was evidence that a text message came from Mr. Mogobe to my phone at this particular time, and that is it. At the time, we don't have Mr. Mogobe's phone. He is just there. He's even deleted the message. I have Mr. Mogobe's SMS myself, right? Mr. Mogobe is the perpetrator. I have the message as the victim, but that message cannot qualify to be brought before court as anything of that is much of evidential value. Do you know why? Because there's no other supporting evidence that says you particularly did it. Right? So now, digital forensics, we're going to take your phone. We're going to retrieve all the deleted messages, and we're going to give you a digital print of what's inside your phone. And then we do it in form of an affidavit. We go and sign it off with the magistrate court or whichever court that the case is before. So that it may be admissible in court. If not, it's a dead end.
So the money comes from you doing that extra work.
Yes.
And the demand for that is huge.
I would say for now, because now I'm not standing on my own, but for what I know is there's a lot of issues, there's a lot of cyberbullying, and there isn't much of anything that's of evidential value. So for us to have maybe a concrete evidence, we would like to venture into digital forensics is where we will venture into and get you as much information as possible. Because remember, in court, evidence, the burden of proof must speak for itself.
So that having been said, what's your advice then to somebody who's thinking about or contemplating getting into forensics?
My advice would be to get in with an open mind. If you are as curious as myself, there's a lot out there that you can be exposed to. And specializing like I specialize now, it opens your eyes to a lot of things. You are not just generally investigating a robbery case, a murder case. There's a lot that comes with forensics. It's not just DNA, it's not just fingerprints. There's a lot more, like I was talking about digital forensics, where you are able to get digital prints of maybe IP addresses, where somebody's operating from, all of that. There's a lot more that comes with it. This is what backs up investigations. You can have a general investigation measure, but this will back it up. And we're speaking more into forensic audit. It speaks more into looking where people are taking their money. Where did you get your money, Mr. Mogobe, to be able to establish yourself like this? You give me that task, I'm going to work with diligence. And if you are a more inquisitive person, this is the right path for you. There's a lot more that comes with it.
Thanks for that answer. It's very comprehensive. Let's talk about brand Thato now.
Yes.
Looking forward, like a couple of decades down the line.
Yes.
Brand Thato Tshupeng Sambere.
Yes.
What do we see about this brand? What do we see about this? Because you're both a brand, you're a service, you're a product wrapped up in one. What can we expect in the next 10, 20 years?
An onion layer, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to describe my career path as an onion. So the moment you pull out the first string, there's still an onion still there. You pull out the next one, there's
but
an
then
onion.
by that time you're crying.
Hey, by that time you are crying and go classes. So speaking into brand Thato in a few years to come, we're looking at a woman who wants to show women out there that you must accept challenges as and when they come. Do not fear anything. As long as you are going through a great legal framework, you are not overstepping anything. Never be sorry about what you do. And I'm looking at taking brand Thato to greater heights. I'm looking at an investigation firm that would look into forensics, for an example, general investigations, all of that, missing person cases. We do have a lot of missing person cases in Botswana, and some of them we end up recovering dead bodies. But if you had acted swiftly, you would have recovered the person alive. So for me, brand Thato wants to look into all of that. These are the challenges that our country faces, and I want to be one of those people that would awaken the investigation fraternity and say, we are not just sitting, we are doing something. I want to stand on my feet and just grab a few of my colleagues who are willing to join me, hold hands together, and just help Botswana go be a safer space than it is right now. And as much as technology is advancing, it means we need to stay ahead of everything. Like I said, somebody's cooking a modus operandi somewhere, and you are just sitting the next thing and all of that. And for me, I'm a lover of crime investigation, not just crime. So when crime comes up, I'm like, there goes my baby. It just basically gets me acting up. And when there's an investigation to do, I'm at my most excited self when I'm not doing anything.
So the sooner we open that firm, the better, I guess. So we're looking forward to that.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to raising funds, looking for funding, a whole lot of things, feasibility studies also. And see, am I just dreaming, or is it quite a feasible thing to do so? I'm looking into that as well.
Yeah. All right. Here's the time now. You get to ask me a question if you have one.
All right. One of the questions that I have, I just came across your book. It's quite inspiring, just looking at it at the back. And one of the things that I picked, I actually smiled to myself, from Moraka to here. And for me, it speaks more into my story, from the streets of Broadhurst to, this is an infested crime area in Broadhurst, extension 16, right? Or extension 27. Yeah. So for me, crime, I grew up around crime. So this is why I knew I had to take a step and help my community. And I was looking at the fact that you became a millionaire at 30. How did you do that? If Olomozana at home would like to know, how did he get here? At 30, I was still buying clothes, eating ice creams.
Yeah, I can't tell you the whole story without spoiling the book for someone.
Yes.
But what I can tell you is that it was a combination of hard work and luck. And luck follows preparation.
Yes.
And a certain amount of relentlessness. And if you think about it, $1 million is not a scary amount of money, not anymore. But those days it may have been, when I was half the age I am now.
Yes.
Just being tenacious, being hardworking, and having a good team around me. Because at the time I had partnered with Sohopolo, who's now a judge of the High Court, and I was relentless. But I'm not going to spoil you any further. You have to buy the book.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And a fellow Mozana out there should really grab that book. It's quite inspirational.
Absolutely. Look at this camera here, and please leave the viewer with a nice, final, inspirational word.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mogobe, for having me today. This was quite an exciting one. I was never said first, but I'm good. A fellow Motswana out there, they always say sky is the limit. that I believe we are the limit. You are what will limit you from going further. Do not be scared to take a risk. If you don't try, you'll never know. So let's keep doing what we do best, and let's keep accepting those challenges. Let's keep taking those risks so that we are growing and we are getting somewhere in life. And all the best to you guys. Thank you so much, Mogobe.
You're most welcome. Just share all your contact details so they know where to find you if they need you.
All right.
Including on social media.
Yes. My contact details are +267 7190 8855. You can dial me if you're looking for any services, you're looking for any help. You'll find me there, even on WhatsApp. My social media handles are Instagram, Mrs. Breezy _angelic. I don't go by my
regular name. Yeah.
Yes, and then my Facebook name is Mrs. Breezy Angelic. So is the TikTok handle. You're just going to find some nice stuff there. But if you need to speak into forensics,
how good is your following on social media?
Oh, not quite. Oh, and Facebook is, yeah, it's quite promising.
It's growing, yeah.
Yeah, the problem is Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah. Why is it a problem?
There's quite a lot of Botswana are not quite at Instagram, much of them.
Yeah.
We're seeing a majority of them now flooding to TikTok, and a whole lot of them are still at Facebook. This is where you get a
Most
huge
people.
following. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And what is the physical location that people? Okano, you haven't opened yet. Okay.
Yes.
No, that's
So
fine.
I'll share that once I'm finished cooking up something.
And then promise that you will come when the time comes.
Oh, 100%. I will definitely come. For me, this is a platform of exposure. There's a platform of sharing a lot with Botswana and opening up their eyes to forensics.
Yeah.
One would speak forensics, they'll think they're taking blood samples.
Yeah.
No, but there's a lot more to
There's
it.
a lot, as we found out this afternoon.
Yes.
Thank you so much. You've done a good job.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.